and it can be used for lime. You don't have a sprayer, but you don't necessarily need one. You have a 230 horsepower tractor, which means you can use all of the equipment you have. The problem with 17 was that you actually started off with this beet harvester, which needs 185 horsepower to run, but you didn't have a tractor that was more than 180 horsepower. But you had 5 tractors and a ton of other equipment that you really didn't need. So it was, what am I doing? That one. It did have more options to start in 17 because you could sell a sizable amount of the equipment. Now with 19, you're starting with a pasture at the bottom in new farmer mode, which is grass. It's not ploughed, it's not field grass, it's mat grass. So you can't fertilise it at all. And you don't have any mowing equipment or any collecting equipment, baling equipment, anything like that. So it's not much use to you, and it's worth 800,000. So I would actually consider either ploughing it in and making it a few arable fields, or selling it, taking the 800,000, buy a couple of the fields closer to the farmyard that already have crops in. I can't remember what other things I thought. Oh, the skid steer doesn't come with any attachments, and the reset point is now at the store, so you can't reset. Did it again? You can't reset stuff to the farm like I used to on 19 and like I can on this farm. So that's kind of a problem. You have to take the skid steer down to the store in order to collect the attachments that you might want. So I just reset the skid steer to the store and sell it, because you can't, there's nothing you could use it on. Then maybe use the money you save to put a front loader on one of your tractors that you already have. But aside from that, it's a good starting setup. You're on the pig farm, so you could go pigs. Oh, I didn't notice we were full. But as I said, I might play a private game on it. I have to see. But on the subject of schedule, I will quite possibly try and finish off longer time playthrough, which kind of stalled when we moved and COVID happened, and I've never really gotten back to it. Let's check that. That's 42. So one more load, and that one's good to go back to the place at the top of the road. Where do you start on a pig farm? Now that really depends on if you're playing with seasons or playing with regular farm. In seasons, you can make an absolute ton of money from breeding pigs. So you buy female pigs, you feed them, they have babies like rabbits have babies, and you just sell them as and when you can. And I believe the Virtual Farmer did a study on pigs with seasons, and he basically concluded that buy the food. You're going to make more than enough money from the pigs to pay for the food, and you're in a situation of I can't remember. Financial experts have a word for it. Lost opportunity. You can sell if this field of sugar beets. I can sell the sugar beets for more than it costs, more money, profit back to me, than I could make from feeding it to the pigs and not having to buy pig food. And the same is true on wheat and barley and corn and everything else you feed to the pigs. If you're going to do any arable work, grow stuff and sell it, and then use the proceeds to buy food for the pigs. It's actually more cost effective that way. At least that was his finding. Now in regular farm sim without seasons running, you're a little bit more limited. You may actually want to consider growing your own food. But that's okay, that's good. It's still a good way to make money because you have pigs, they breed, you sell the pigs, and you just keep selling pigs. Obviously you can keep some to increase your herd size, herd of pigs, yeah, I guess. Increase the herd size is kind of what I'm doing on this farm at the moment with the sheep. It appears from our first year that sheep breed at about 100%, or at least the sheep I have on this farm breed at about 100% per year. So we're just coming up to the point where all of my mature sheep are about to have sheep babies. And so I've got 200 sheep now. I should have somewhere in the region of maybe 350 sheep come spring, and obviously you'll have to come back in a few episodes time to figure out how successful that prediction was. So right now I'm just breeding sheep. I sell the male sheep, which creates more income for the farm, and I keep the female sheep because obviously they're going to add to the flock. Outside of that, we're making wool. They don't make a lot of wool, so they're quite labour intensive, but eventually we're going to be at the point where I can't fit more sheep on the farm, and I'm just going to have to sell half a flock every year in order to make room for next year's new sheep. And that will probably make my sheep quite lucrative income. Now, while that's true, Hail Team, the other thing is you make money from selling your wheat, your potatoes or sugar beets, and your soybeans, canola or sunflower, and what you can make in selling those could be more than you're saving from feeding them to the pigs. So yeah, that's always something you've got to bear in mind. I mean, the opportunity cost is, you've got $50,000, you could buy yourself a nice BMW, or you could invest that $50,000. Now, in 10 years' time, your investment could be worth significantly more than $50,000. Your BMW is definitely not going to be worth anything like $50,000. It's probably going to be worth $4,000. So that's your opportunity cost. What do you do with the money that you have? And that's all sorts of craziness, but I think we can empty there. I'll drag it along the front of that row. I'm seriously running out of space here. Yes, that's our next challenge. Can I fit all the sugar beets in the dry store, in the root crop storage area? Or are we going to have to start driving down to the store and just selling it? The best time to sell sugar beets isn't for... We're in early fall, it's about mid-winter before we're going to get the best price on sugar beets. And that's going to be a lot of driving down to the north end of the map. And again, maybe a lot of that will happen on off-stream. But yeah, you don't get any other income from pigs, it's just from breeding. But they do breed real quick. I think that's why the achievement for pigs is something like breed 50 pigs, breed 30 sheep, breed 20 cows, because it takes so much time to breed cows. But pigs are just dropping like crazy. I think in the regular game you're probably, on a small herd, you're probably breeding at least one per day, if not more. Potentially, I think you get up to about 50 pigs and you're probably breeding about 3 a day. And so that's going to make you money over time. If you've got a small animal trailer that takes 10 pigs, you're probably going to be going to the store every 3 to 4 days to sell a load. Now you only sell them at half price. But that's, I mean, the other thing I tend to point out is if you're going to start an animal farm in Farm Sim, at least start with about 50. Because otherwise you're putting a lot of work into making the food potentially. Especially with the sheep I have here. I started with less than 50 and you have to cut the grass frequently, you have to bale it up, turn it into hay and bale it up, and that's a lot of work taken out of dealing with your arable crop. So you want your animals to be productive. They don't produce a lot of wool. Wool is about 25% the value of what it was in Farm Sim 17, so it's not a good income source. Selling animals, you sell them for half the value that you buy them for. With seasons running, you sell them by weight. But it's all, it is what it is. Let's lift that up. So, for example, if we, I've got sheep that are 143 pounds, 152 pounds there. Then I've got some smaller ones, 133. It's a young one, not fertile. It's probably good to sell, but it's not good for breeding right now. If I jump up to the sheep, let's do this. Jump up to the sheep pasture. Now I'm here. So you can see the prices of each of these sheep. These ones I just bought 318. They cost me 384. So yeah, not bad. But they've still lost value. However, this one is 0.4 years old. This one cost me nothing. It turned up one day on the farm and is worth 300 already. So it's slightly better in seasons. They're not a straight 50% value, but obviously if you go down to baby sheep, which we don't have any right now, but potentially this one's 1.5 years old. oh, it's the other screen that shows breeding level and food levels and everything. Okay, let's go back to the other screen, that screen. So if I look at one of these, next animal that's not pregnant yet, but I just bought those. If I go down to some of the smaller ones, this one for example, next animal soon. So that's I can't, yeah, don't make me do math, but Ultra's where I want to be. It does, okay, so seasons does change the game. We're playing with seasons now, so it is fall. I'm doing harvesting. I can plough fields, I can cultivate fields, I can plant winter crops. So let's do a seasons, quick seasons thing. So right now it's too cold to plant cotton. I can't plant cotton at any time using what they call a geo, which is a geographical region weather pattern. So I can't plant cotton, I can't plant sugarcane. Although the temperatures are okay for planting sugarcane. So right now I could plant anything I want to, except it's only time to plant oilseed radish, poplar, grass, canola and wheat and barley and oats, so cereal crops. And I can plant those throughout the year, although if the ground is frozen, you can't plant it because you'll just technically break your implement, so it doesn't let you. So we're controlled when we can plant. We're also controlled when we can harvest. And so we're not even in soybean and corn harvesting time yet. Now the added problem is we have weather. So we're in the fall and it's cloudy today. It's nice and sunny tomorrow. So it's a good day to dry our grass into hay. It's going to be cloudy on Friday with a bit of sun, and then it's going to start raining on Saturday. Now sometimes I can get a full season where I'm getting rain almost every other day or every day, which adds a challenge to can I harvest, because obviously if it's raining or if the ground is wet or the crop is wet, you can't harvest it. So problem there. What do? We have to wait until the ground dries out. And with seasons running, it's not, you can't harvest when it's raining. It takes time for the crop to dry out, and so you can't harvest while the crop's wet either. So just because it's not raining doesn't mean, oh, I can get out there and harvest now. Now one advantage with the root crops like sugar beets and the potatoes is you can harvest them when they're wet. So that's why I'm including sugar beets in the production of this farm, is because if there's any time where the crops are wet, I can still get out there and harvest the sugar beets. Now, as I said, it makes the game far more structured. So you have to plan ahead. You have to plan when you plant. You have to plan when you fertilize. You have to plan when you harvest. And you've got the plan, you know, the weather report, or the weather forecast, should I say. But even that's not 100% reliable. And obviously, the farther out you're looking at the weather, let's go back to the weather. So it's saying it's going to rain on Saturday and be sunny on Saturday with clouds. Sunday's going to be sunny, Monday's going to be sunny, and it's going to rain, snow on Tuesday, or sleet, slush, something. It's not going to be very friendly. But while I can rely on it being cloudy all today, it's probably going to be sunny most of tomorrow. Friday, it's uncertain. Saturday, we might get no sun, all rain, or we could get a sunny Saturday as well. So it's like kind of like real life. It's less reliable the further you're looking, but you can plan for it. With seasons, there is failure to germinate. So if I do plant, let's say I was allowed to plant cotton, I could plant cotton and it would lay dormant in the ground until the temperature hits 18 degrees Celsius. And when it hits 18 degrees Celsius, the cotton will start growing. However, there may be some patches of ground where the crop doesn't germinate. So you lose some of the crop. Also, an aspect of the game that you don't have, or an aspect of seasons that you don't have control over, is moisture. So if you end up with a summer that there's no rain for the entire summer, you could end up with some of your crop dying out because they didn't get any water. So, and you can't control for that. You can generally control a little bit for germination, although again it's a little bit haphazard at times. But you don't need to worry about it. It's kind of like you don't need to be OCD planting your field, although you kind of want to maximize that. You are going to lose some crop in some of your fields. It is what it is. Make the most of what you end up harvesting. Why did that stop? Because it's full. It also, and it slows the game down a bit for you. It makes it a little bit, I find it makes it a little bit more manageable. When I'm playing on regular game, I want to get crop in the ground as quickly as possible because that's what makes me money. So I don't want a field lying idle for too long because that's not making me money. With seasons, there's nothing I can plant in this field that's going to make me any money before next fall. You've got to plan for that as well. In your first year, if you're doing a new farmer with seasons, you've got 100,000 initial money, and that's going to last you until you can start pulling crops out of the ground, or until you can start making money in some other manner. Now, obviously you can do contracts. That's always available. But the whole, there's no money in your farm until the first harvest. So you have to, there's no going out and buying tons of new equipment, or, make sure you've got the seed you need, the fertilizer you need, and struggle through the first year. Do contracts if you need any extra cash. If you're not playing on New Farmer, you're playing on Farm Manager or start from scratch, make sure you don't spend all of your money when you start, because you are going to need some to last you through spring, summer, fall, and then you're going to have some money to do some more stuff. Buy more lands, buy more equipment, buy better equipment, whatever. But just manage your money very carefully. It's very, very easy when the first time you do it to end up broke because you messed up. So that took us through the weather. Planting stuff. Some seed has frost resistance, others doesn't. That means that your cereal crops and canola and oilseed radish are fairly hardy if you plant them in cold ground that's too cold. Sunflower, soybeans, corn, potatoes and the rest of them are probably going to die more. So make sure that the ground temperature is at least what it needs to be, or they'll die. With, again, your cereal crops, canola and oilseed radish, if it snows on them, they actually survive it quite well. I don't think I've lost any of those crops to snow. Soybeans, corn, If it gets cold, they're probably going to die young. Mature crops have no resistance. We're into harvesting at that point, so get the harvesting in. With drought resistance, you have no control over drought resistance. There's no way to water the fields, there's no pivots, there's no water bowsers that you can just run through, there's no irrigation, there's nothing. So you're really relying on the the weather as it pertains to the geo you're playing. So obviously I'm playing Southwest England geo, I think Gloucestershire, which is technically not where this farm is based, but it's adjacent. Is fairly wet. We do get very dry summers here, but and we get very wet falls. This is actually turning out to be quite an unseasonable dry fall this year. But that's not to say next year is going to be as friendly. But yeah, dry weather will destroy some of your crop. You may have noticed that over there between the two trees there's a little patch of weeds. That's how seasons affects your ground. It's not a fully encompassing race game. You get weeds just work their way across the map 100% of every field. You get little patches like that just ahead of us, and they pop up all over the place. Can't see anything else. The rest of this field is protected from weeds at the moment because it's in harvestable state. Weeds don't grow when the crop is ready to harvest, but as soon as you've harvested, the weeds start popping up. You'll see a ton of weeds in the grass field on the other side of that hedge in front of us, but they're only small patches. So it's a sort of thing, you can do the weeding, or you can just say, I can't be bothered, it's too much, it's too little. That's actually getting quite prolific. We've got a fair number of weeds in that field. We can see patches at the top where the ground is rendering as brown. So yeah, maybe I'd consider weeding that. Now if you don't treat the weeds and you plough the field, the weeds will come back. If you plant, the weeds will be destroyed during your planting, but they will come back. So you are going to want to deal with them eventually. But I kind of don't feel an absolute need to weed all the time. What's the problem? It seems weird. So the same with failure to germinate and drought damage is usually just in small patches, and they're manageable. It's sort of I've lost some crop, that's going to affect my income this year, but it's only tiny little bits of the field, so it's not like, oh, I've lost everything. I think animals can die. If you don't water them, animals will die. So it's kind of like that for plants. May be able to just check this. And so these fields are oilseed radish and they're growing fine. I have no damage in any of those. This field, oilseed radish, has just been planted, and the same with this one, just been planted. So potentially overnight I may get patches of blue where germination has failed, otherwise they'll go to first stage or zero stage of growth. This field, that yellow, is ready to harvest. You can see it's a little more golden than the bright yellow I've planted. That field was ploughed. So my fields are all in fairly good state, except for this one, which needs to be ploughed because it's a root crop and you have to plough after root crops. So that dealt with resistance. You've then got your animals. There's water, food, cleanliness, wool production. You only produce wool at certain times of year. With milk, you only produce milk after the cow has done birthing their first calf. So you won't get any milk out of cows when you start. Buy cows as soon as you can, and then make sure that they're fed and watered, and eventually they'll make a new cow and then they'll start producing milk. And then price variation.